This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by Hamilton, a value-add investment and development firm in Nashville, Tennessee, focused on bringing passive real estate investment opportunities directly to your inbox. Visit www.investwithhamilton.com/invest to sign up for upcoming investment opportunities. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with my man, Chad Newton, founder alongside his wife of YAHH Hospitality, which is one of the, if I do say so myself, one of the biggest up and coming restaurant hospitality groups in Nashville and probably the Southeast. YAHH Hospitality is the parent company of Eastside Banh Mi, which is one of the best sandwich shops in the world. And I'm not exaggerating at all. Seriously, one of the best banh mi's you'll ever have. And we can dive into that as well and why. Right. They're starting a new concept called Eastside Pho, which is coming soon to the YAHH, which is our micro unit concept, which we'll be talking about quite a bit today. And they're doing pop-ups for their next concept already called SS Guy, which is a Thai chicken and beer concept.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I went to the pop-up not too long ago and was floored by that fried chicken. That might beat Southern fried chicken, which is a sin to say in the South.
Or you could just put it next to it and love them both.
There you go. I'll take one of each, please.
There you go.
Yeah, Chad, that was a very brief introduction. But, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into restaurants.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. This is awesome. Always a pleasure to hang out with you and talk a little bit, especially talk shop about business, things we love to do. So we've been in Nashville for almost 2 full years. In March, it'll be 2 full years. So.
God, I can't believe it's been that long.
I know. Can you believe that?
It's COVID time.
Yeah.
Right. It's like 2020 is just the lost year that never happened.
Right.
But it did happen. So every time I look back on something, I'm like, it was last year. No, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was like the fastest, slowest year is the way I like to put it. But basically we moved out here from California. My wife and business partner, Gracie Nguyen, shout out to her, chef. What's up?
What's up, chef?
She's amazing. We moved out here to start hospitality businesses and start restaurants and be in a new area and be in the South. And we just loved it here. So we kept traveling here, and just every other trip we took here, we just started to love it more. And we really love the food scene and everything about it. And eating and drinking in Nashville is fantastic. It's a lot of fun, but also it's such a great community, and people really support restaurants really well. So with YAHH Hospitality, we're basically starting a restaurant group that may encompass different areas of the hospitality world as well. But right now, we're kind of focused on fine casual restaurants, what we like to call it, which is basically a fast casual setup where you order at a register, get your food a little bit after that. But it does have some touch points that like a neighborhood or a fine dining restaurant would have as well. And that's our background, is fine dining. And we have a very varied background, but fine dining is just one of it. But we've also done a ton of consulting. And then also in California, our latest projects before we moved here was way back in 2011, we created and scaled a 10-unit fine casual chain, if you will, in California called Asian Box, which was very successful, and it's still going strong today. So a lot of our experience is just completely varied between fine dining, consulting, and in the consulting area, we consulted with Hilton Hotels, Kimpton Group, numerous people wanting to start fast casual and fine casual concepts. And it's been really helpful to kind of put us where we're at today, where we can start building our own restaurant group out here, which we're focused on doing. So,
I love that fine casual concept. That's almost exactly what the guy from Chipotle accidentally did with that concept. I mean, he started Chipotle to fund his fine dining restaurant that he never ended up opening because Chipotle was so successful. So why fine casual? What was so attractive to you about that?
Well, again, it's just our background of we wanted to do food at a very affordable and approachable level to make it accessible to more people. And we wanted to do that food from a fine dining lens, which was very high standards and techniques, and using everything we learned in the fine dining game, using the best ingredients. I hate the term chef driven, but everything is, completely chef driven of things we've done in fine dining in the past. But you can take that and apply it to a fast casual setup. So you're talking about 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, making it really easy to do online ordering, delivery, all that, and making the price point around $10 to $15 makes it approachable for everybody.
Yeah. No, it's so true. When you guys first opened, he said on me, and
Yeah.
everybody at the tables comment, because we went to the soft opening.
Right.
We were all like, Chad, you're charging $10 for this sandwich. This is too cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, and part of our business, it is a value proposition. Absolutely.
But it works.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yep.
I mean, so, you guys opened up, what was it, August of 2020?
Yeah, exactly. August of 2020. Yep.
Yeah. So for a restaurant to be opening up in what I would consider the absolute height of the pandemic,
It was, yeah.
because everybody had kind of settled into what they thought was this new life. Didn't you guys end up beating your first year expectations in sales?
Yeah, I mean, first year, yes. First full year, we're tracking pretty much what we thought we were going to do, but that
We're
was
still
like
in a pandemic.
But those are pre-COVID
Yeah.
projections. So
I mean, we signed that lease in February, January.
January
Yeah.
of 20. Yeah.
Yeah, 2020.
Gosh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's wild, though. I mean, most, if you read the newspaper and you listen to what the media says, it's like everybody's dying. But,
Right.
I mean, obviously COVID wasn't easy, but you guys opened up in the middle of the pandemic and did amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the style of restaurant that we just specialize
Fine
in.
casual.
Yeah, exactly. Because, we make it really easy to be able to do online ordering. That's something we've always done. We didn't pivot to that because of the pandemic. This is something we believe in and we've always done.
Yeah.
We've always worked with delivery services. We worked with DoorDash back in the beginning when they were just Stanford students coming across the street to our office in Palo Alto.
That's awesome.
Trying to get our business. It's like we've been really specializing in this kind of food and this kind of accessibility to easy food, if you will, but still having those really high standards and still making it memorable when someone eats it and goes like, wow, that's the best sandwich I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because we're doing everything in house. We're taking that chef lens and those standards that we would have in a fine dining kitchen and just bringing it down to this, And so it makes a lot of sense. And, opening during the pandemic was a little scary, of course. And then, I always talk to my other restaurant friends and buddies who like to play in the big boxes, right? There's all these different kinds of games. And yeah, the big boxes hit amazing when they hit hard and they're full and they're doing really well. Yeah, they crush it. But in times of, things like the pandemic or the economy hurting, that's where fast casual kind of got started was, back in 2009, 2010, little breakdown there, and people pivoted to that because people just didn't want to spend that much money going out. And so it's a really interesting world. So we like to specialize in these smaller restaurants, right, that can kind of churn and burn, but you're still doing super high quality.
Yeah.
So there's no one's right by which one they want to be in. It's all kind of a different approach to the business. But yeah, those big boxes when they hit, I'm talking about like those 140 seat restaurants, those big Broadway bars. Yeah, when they hit, they're amazing. But also when you have something like the pandemic or the economy crashes, it's really, really tough times. Yeah. So I think it's the fine casual is definitely a little more sturdier to overall kind of world situations and things that are happening. So
yeah, I mean, you bring up an interesting point with the recession and how it essentially forced innovation and for people to rethink the way that they were looking at restaurants. And that's pretty much what this last recession did. And that's kind of how we came up with the YAHH. Right. I mean, we started getting these calls left and right from restaurant groups that wanted to continue opening, but wanted almost no seating.
Right.
They wanted less than 1,000 square feet.
Yep.
And every time somebody called me, I was just like, that doesn't exist in Nashville.
Yeah.
Like, Like if you find 1,500 square feet, count your lucky stars.
Yeah.
Because Nashville traditionally just has been, that 2,000 and 2,500 square foot restaurants
Exactly.
everywhere. I mean, it's like rinse, wash, and repeat on these sizes. And so when I was driving by that car wash that one day, you were actually one of the first people that I called.
Yep.
So I called Jamie and I said, hey, I think that this might be crazy. And if so, hang up on me and let's forget that I ever called you about this. But what if we converted those car wash bays into restaurants? And so we started talking through it, trying to figure out how it would work. And since, we obviously both had a relationship with you. We helped you find the location for Eastside Banh Mi, and Jamie designed it.
Exactly.
And so, we both were like, okay, well, let's call Chad and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
So kind of ran the initial idea past you. I mean, what were your thoughts when I first said, hey, what if we did these micro restaurants?
Yeah, I was into it because I think it is really smart, especially right now. I mean, you see what everyone's doing with ghost kitchens, right? That's the new kind of hot thing. This is better than that.
You think?
Yeah, it is because anytime you choose a concept, a size, a space for what you're going to do, you're going for different things, right? Just depending on pro formas and different things. This, I think, is great because it's not all delivery based. Yeah, it's a lot delivery based, but going into a ghost kitchen is completely delivery based. So that means all of your
Right.
sales are discounted, essentially, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all your revenue is discounted.
Yeah, because you're paying a
someone off
delivery
the
service.
top. So what this does is, and I think you guys are super smart about this, about developing them so that folks can just come and eat. It has the mix of like the food hall, but also the ghost kitchen, and I think it's really smart because of that. No.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you. We looked at several food halls as comps when we were trying to throw it together.
Right.
And the cost of maintaining those common areas inside where people are sitting
Yeah.
was astronomical.
Yeah.
Because, maybe you have 0 restaurants open for breakfast, which means you have 0 people filling seats and spending money, but you're spending money on electricity, on HVAC, on real estate that you're paying for. I mean, it's amazing how much that costs. And that was kind of the beauty of this concept was, no, we'll just make all the seating outside. It's
Right.
kind of, it's kind of COVID proof. If COVID comes back, you can focus on to-go and delivery.
Absolutely.
Or people are comfortable sitting outside. So, that it was just to us, looking back, it was like, it was a no-brainer to do that.
Yeah.
But had the pandemic never hit, we probably never would have done that.
Yeah, and the other thing is, people are looking to expand at this point still and grow and open new businesses, but they do want to do it at more of a discount.
Yeah.
It's investors are maybe a little bit more reticent to lend money to restaurants these days,
Right.
because of COVID. There's a lot of little factors in there, and I think we'll probably dive into this more, but like the capital needed to get into this is so
Crazy.
doable. Yeah, it's so doable. I mean, it's pretty insane. Yeah.
If you're joining us live and you have any questions about hospitality groups, micro units, the YAHH, whatever, jump in live. Chad and I are happy to kind of open up the conversation with you all. That's why we go live, right? We're here to open this up to everybody. So let's talk about food trucks.
Yeah.
You came from California.
Yeah.
So you guys had your food truck craze like 20
Right.
years before we did.
Yep.
Right. I mean,
For sure.
it hit Nashville like right after the recession, right?
Yep.
So what kind of impact did you see on the restaurant industry from food trucks?
Well, just a lot of people wanted to get into them because it was an easier way and a less expensive way to get a restaurant.
Like how so? How I mean,
I think, I haven't looked at any food truck numbers for maybe the last 5-10 years because
Right.
they're kind of a little bit irrelevant now. Not all the way. Hey, if it works for people, that's great. There's some really great experiences out there and examples out there of
I feel
people
like
that
it's
are
so
doing
tough,
them.
though.
Yeah, it's
Some
tough.
are, you're either like crushing it or you're selling your food.
Well,
truck
you're also,
in
you
6
think
months.
about it, you're sometimes you're street fighting for revenue. You ever watch the Great Food Truck Race on the Food Network? It's hilarious because I know it's not all like that, and there's definitely ways to get partnerships with breweries and other folks like that to be able to have kind of like a residency somewhere. The biggest example I can think of in East Nashville is Maíz de la Vida with Chopper. They crush it, and I'm so glad that they're there. But I think back in the day it was kind of like $75,000 for a new food truck. Then you had to outfit it a little bit. So, your price was still way lower than opening up a brick and mortar restaurant. But are you able to get that many people in there as you would in a restaurant? Or can the people find you? I even go back to like the first food trucks out there when they became popular in LA, the Kogi truck by Roy Choi.
Oh, cool.
And they were some of the first people to use Twitter and tell people where they were at, and people started following them. And so that kind of started the phase.
It's like a whole new problem to deal with as a restaurateur, right?
Yeah, and I remember brick and mortar restaurateurs used to get pissed, like, oh, there's a food truck parked like 2 blocks down from me. They're taking my people. They're taking my customers.
It's guerrilla warfare.
It is, So, my biggest thing on food trucks is that if I was to do a food truck in any capacity, it'd be more of a marketing tool, and doing private parties and things like that. I think it's almost worth it to drive around town with real big flashy food truck with your logos all over it. It's great marketing, right?
You know who does that really well is the tap truck.
Right.
you
Yeah.
seen them?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, they're crushing it because all they do are those private parties and things like that.
Right.
And I mean, it's such a unique idea, and I think that they're almost a perfect example of the problem with food trucks because they're so unique, it works.
Right.
But after somebody does something unique with food, the next one has to be even more unique, and that's what people kind of started to expect out of food trucks was like, how wild is this going to be?
Right.
And then it just started to kind of disappoint.
Yeah, and then you just break down the pure economics of it. You can only fit so much food on a food truck, right? So like, what kind of hours can you do? What kind of sales can you do? What kind of revenue can you do? Then you start breaking it down like that, and there's definitely pros and cons to doing a brick and mortar versus a food truck. Yeah, it's way less cash in, but people need to still find you somehow, and you might be in different spots. Whereas they know if you have a brick and mortar, they can go to you every day if they want to.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
There's tons. I mean, if you literally wrote it down on paper and you did a column for both, I mean, you would come up with probably 6 on each side, of some good things and some bad things. But I think more with food trucks, again, for me, it'd be like a marketing piece. There's really strong marketing. Yeah. That's why having an airport location for a restaurant group is fantastic. It's almost, the revenues are always very good, right? But think about it. You have thousands of people, but you have thousands of people walking by you every single day. Yeah. Thousands.
It's like
it's captive.
It's like what all those groups do with real estate in New York City on Times Square. Not a single one of those retailers is making enough money to cover all of that.
Right. It's more of just like I'm the presence. I'm here, and
just branding and marketing.
Yeah, and people think it's there in that neighborhood. It's got to be amazing, and
it has to be.
It's just in their brain automatically. It's the place to be or the place to shop, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think food trucks I think they changed the restaurant industry, but with that being said, they were a stepping stone. It's kind of like, what co-working did, and that's what we're trying to do with the YAHH.
Right.
It's a stepping stone into where everybody wants to be.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I always use the grilled cheesery as the perfect example.
Great example. Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a banker about this earlier today, actually. What bank would have lent them money to open up a grilled cheese restaurant?
Right.
I mean, I would just imagine everybody be like, you're crazy. Why would anybody pay for a grilled cheese?
Yeah.
No one's going to do that. So they go and open this food truck, and I finally got convinced to go try it one day at the farmer's market. This was years ago.
Right.
And I was blown away
Yeah.
by the kinds of cheeses they had, the different breads. I mean, just the quality of the sandwich. And now I haven't seen their food truck in years.
Right.
They're brick and mortar.
They have 3-4 brick and mortar. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is a great stepping stone. I mean, there's a lot of different elements to it, but just, getting the food in front of people, at a food truck or at one of these micro food halls without having to do the whole production, getting that food in front of important people, maybe finding investors.
Yeah.
That's what it's kind of all about. It doesn't, I don't think people have to be so concerned about, hey, this is the next year, this is the next 2 years, I'm stuck. It's like, it's more of like, let's do this as a building block and have that built in as a plan. Hey, we're going to do this for a few years, and then either we're gonna hopefully be profitable enough to save some money away, or even just show revenue to get a loan. There's so many different things why it is advantageous to do it. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's such a good. I mean, just even if it's just a loss leader.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying, branding and marketing.
Totally.
I mean, I'll see food trucks driving down the street, and I don't want to stop and get a food truck, but I'm like, I'm gonna drive over to grilled cheese or station, grab a bite to eat.
Right. Yeah.
Well, creative question for you. Does he have any free options?
We do. We actually designed them. This is a great story. Thank you for the question there. Yes, we definitely specialize in obviously beef sandwiches, which is bread. With the whole which we bake house every single day, a couple times a day. To stay up with the demand. It's pretty crazy. We have a full-time baker. Yeah,
but that's the fine dining commitment.
It is exactly. We could easily just go and buy a bread and maybe not have the same quality, but that's what people come back again and again for. Even though it kind of hurts us sometimes to have to do it the way we do it, it makes it well worth it in the end because people love it. So a really cool unknown fact, which I would like to get this out more and more to the public, is that the whole rest of the menu at Eastside Banh is gluten free.
Is it really?
Yeah. So just besides the bread, every single other item are pastries that Chef Gracie bakes are all gluten free. Always.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, some of the best chocolate chip cookies you'll ever have.
The
So
cookies are
yes,
cookies?
yeah, absolutely. She doesn't bake with regular gluten flour on any of her
I would never
pastries or
guess that.
cookies
You
or
can't
anything.
tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So Grace used to own a gluten-free bakery in Palo Alto before we moved out here.
I didn't know that.
No joke, yeah. And so, good. This is why I told you this is the perfect question. And
So-
we didn't.
Is that the Gracie Jones Bakery?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Gracie Jones Bake Shop.
Okay.
Gracie Jones gluten-free bake shop in Palo Alto. It's very successful for a couple of years there, and we just shut it down to move out here. And so again, like we didn't set this question up, but it's brilliant. So Asian Box, the 10-unit restaurant group that we created and built and scaled, 100% gluten-free. 100% gluten-free.
Really?
Yes. It's known. It's one of the few out there that's 100% gluten-free. And so Vietnamese food, Asian food is actually pretty easy
Is
to
it
do
just
gluten-free.
naturally because you don't have
It
a
is.
whole
It's
lot of breads
rice-based
and-
instead of
yeah.
that. It's the French influence that brought in the baguette and some of the other things. Now, yeah, some Asian cultures definitely have like, wheat in their wrappers for
Noodles or-
dumplings or
yeah.
noodles, but there's total ways to work around that, and that's with rice noodles and things. And that's why we
That's
have
really interesting.
all of our bowls are 100% gluten-free. We use gluten-free soy sauce. Everything is. Even the Maggi that we put on, the little
Yeah.
magic seasoning sauce, it's a gluten-free version.
Which is delicious.
Yeah, it's fun. It makes everything tastier. But yeah, I love that question because it's so true. We are so gluten-friendly besides the bread. So
Wow. And that's what you got 3 or 4 sandwiches on the menu, and you've got that doesn't even take up half of one side of your menu.
yeah, it's pretty remarkable to think that people can definitely eat there with ease. Yeah,
That's awesome. I would
Yeah.
never have thought that. Lilac, thank you for that question. That was great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you scaled up to 10 concepts in California.
Yeah.
One, I can't even imagine how difficult that is because California is unbelievably expensive.
It sure is. Yeah, you tell me. Yeah.
So what was that process like going from one shop to 10?
Sure, it was a learning experience. It was extremely valuable. I was going from being a chef in fine dining restaurants, basically for the last 5 years before that, just working at some of the top restaurants and being one of those chefs that cook for reviews and stuff in San Francisco, which is great. I loved it. I had a really good time. I learned a lot about the food side, but this really heightened my business side, and I learned so much. So imagine having the spirit and the base of this company in Silicon Valley. So that's where our investors were
Wow.
from, right? So, so we had a lot of investors. I sat in on a lot of board meetings. I presented at board meetings. I helped raise capital. I did everything you would ever imagine to scale a company. And that's on the business side. On the operations side was also very, very, very important to learn as well, because it was like quality and consistency at 10 units, training at 10 units.
Right.
Making sure that if you rolled out a new special, it would work at all 10. Like, how do you roll out a special for 10 restaurants instead of 1 and do it with, ease and making sure that it's easy on all the employees and the team there. Working on the supply chain, which was my big focus the last couple of years.
To make sure that you're maintaining that consistency.
Exactly. So on the founder side, I learned really so much about the business ins and outs. On the operations side, I learned more than I ever would have liked to know, but you need to know as a chef on the supply chain side and how to deal with that and how to source and how to find the right partnerships with purveyors and things like that and how to work them on the back end so you can get your product in cheaper and not have to charge your customers more.
Right.
It's a whole equation. So that was really, really important to learn all that. And then also I think building and creating this brand and evolving it throughout the years from the marketing perspective was really, really eye-opening for me. And I learned so much. So like those 3 areas, like marketing, positioning, how you position a brand, to the business side of like how companies are formulated, raising capital with the big dogs, like in Silicon Valley, like some of the meetings I sat in on, wow, you know what I mean? I still look back and go, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
To then the operations side. So I think long story short is that I learned so much from doing that. And it was hard. It was really hard, but it was also really rewarding when things went well. I mean, we were more in that realm of getting a lot of like national awards of like, fastcasual.com and, some of the more industry magazines and publications.
That's cool.
Got to travel to tons of things across the country and spoke on some panels in front of people. I'm sitting next to someone from Chipotle who's presenting and other cool stuff. So it was a lot of fun. It was really hard. Learned a lot, but it was extremely rewarding, and I'm glad we got to go through that whole kind of process.
I'm curious about the raising capital part
Yeah.
because what I didn't really know, or I just didn't really think about, and many of my listeners are obviously in real estate.
Yeah.
They are raising capital for their own deals. So that's a process everybody's very curious about. Raising capital for a restaurant is not too dissimilar from raising capital for a real estate investment. I mean, what was that like? How did you pitch in Silicon Valley when the majority of people there are trying to figure out the next tech concept? Did you kind of pit your restaurant against a tech investment?
You had to have some tech elements, of course, because you're in Silicon Valley. So again, going back to like having that early kind of understanding and use of online ordering and third-party delivery, and if you counted all of the kind of cool food concepts that were tech and business related that came out of Stanford in those couple of years, they're probably still coming out. Like everyone, it was like the coolest industry to be in, where kind of the food and restaurant world intertwined with tech and business, and it was really cool. And they're still coming out with great stuff. But I think it depends on what kind of investment you're looking for, because there's traditional investments for the restaurants. Those aren't as likable by kind of big investors. They want to see something big, right? And so a lot of time it can be positioned as an enterprise investment where you're just hoping to be attained by another company down the line. And so you're building and trying to get units open. And I'm not saying that's what we did, but that is one way of doing it.
That is a goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's to say like, hey, we're going to get 10 stores open. We're going to show 15 to 20 million in revenue. And then hopefully we can be acquired by this multiple at a certain time down the line.
Yep.
So there's probably a lot of similarities. And again, you know me, I'm on the new side to real estate investing and stuff. Why I always like to hang around you and try to learn more when I get more time. But there's probably some similarities and probably some differences as well. But it's a very interesting world. Yeah, for sure. Ever since the 100 years ago, there's been restaurants, big business. You look at some of these chains down here, especially like in the South and in the Midwest, and I heard maybe like 7 years ago that Chuy's was a publicly traded company, and I was like, I've never even heard of Chuy's back home, and now I see it, on like
everywhere,
see it around, and I go, now I understand why it's kind of like a El Torito or a Chevy's that we used to have, So yeah, there's definitely a lot of different investment strategies in restaurants and hospitality for sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got a couple more questions here. Gnome saying, that's hilarious. What inspired you to start cooking?
Well, I was hungry. I was a hungry kid. Seriously, that's really why I like to tell this story. I was a hungry kid. I just wanted to eat all the time.
Started cooking. You wanted to
eat? Both my parents always kind of cooked around the house. We traveled a good bit when I was a kid. I got to see some cool things, and Dad liked to go to restaurants, so we would go to restaurants, and I just kind of loved everything about it. And I just loved eating.
Hard not to.
Yeah. And so still to this day, I always talk about, creating restaurant concepts and creating dishes within that restaurant concept. I do stuff that I like, like that's what I focus on. And so when I heard someone explain this really, really well a couple months ago, it was like, yeah, that's the way I do it as well in my restaurants, because in essence, my whole life is eating and drinking. So kind of trust me. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those things where I just like to cook what I like to eat and, kind of build off of that and all that. So yeah, that's how I really got my start in cooking was just being hungry. And then, kind of, got some really great positions when I was getting out of college and found the right people to work with and just kind of built off of that and just kept going. And obviously you can't do it without hard work. So.
That's great.
And time spent. Yeah. It takes a lot. Just like anything,
Yeah. No,
you need reps, so.
That's it.
Yeah. Anything in life. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, I know I'm jumping around.
Yeah.
But going back to 10 restaurant concepts with Asian Bucks, how long did it take you to scale from 1 to 10?
So about 7 or 8 years. Yeah. About 8 years. And, we closed 2 along the way, and then built back. So I always like to say, it's never easy. I've closed a bunch of restaurants. It sucks. You know, it happens though. It's just in any business. I think.
Dude, restaurants are one of the hardest businesses
Yeah.
to open. The fact that you got to 10, like the fact that most people can keep one restaurant open is amazing to me.
Yeah,
Like that's tough.
it is.
I don't-
Yeah,
People don't realize how tough it is. When I first got started in commercial real estate, I would get the calls all the time of, yeah, I'm looking to retire in the next few years, like to open up a restaurant and, just enjoy my retirement. And I'd be like, you don't know what running a restaurant is like, do you?
Right.
It's the busiest job you've ever had.
yeah, yeah. If you don't love it, I think it's kind of similar for a lot of businesses. You're gonna get
Yeah.
what you put in, and either that or you find great like-minded people to do it with you, right? So there's the two ways to do it: do it yourself really hard, or find really great people, and that's besides a great team, of
Right.
course. I'm talking about like from an ownership or a upper management level.
And how much capital did you have to raise? And if you can't disclose that, I mean, I'm sure. But how much capital did you have to raise to get to 10 or 12 units?
Yeah, I don't want to disclose the whole number, but I mean, stores that we were building were probably between 500 and 750 each store.
Yeah.
So,
So roughly in that range.
there's that in there. There's also a lot of carrying costs and different things with having a
Operating costs.
Yeah.
And, you want to have
corporate
enough
office.
set aside for
Right.
safety. And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that kind of come into play.
So there was a lot of capital raising going on.
There was, yeah.
So the what I wanted to lead into
Yeah.
was, you've been in Nashville for 2 years. You've already successfully done Eastside Bond Me.
Yep.
You're about to open up your second concept with Eastside Pho. You're
Yep.
already doing pop-ups for SS Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly the title of this podcast is expanding rapidly with
Right.
micro units. I mean, you haven't had to raise any capital to get this rolling yet.
No, so we're very lucky to be pretty much organically capitalized.
That
at
has
this
to be
point.
fun.
It is.
That's everybody's dream.
Yeah.
right?
I mean, if you're looking to take on, folks that can help you grow in different capacities, and there's always maybe that need somewhere, that's great. Like a strategic partner or whatnot, but value add partner, absolutely. But if you can do it yourself, why not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world. Anyway, we've been able to do that, and we are, cash flowing the few next projects.
Yeah, I mean, you're on pace right now to actually open more restaurants over the next 7 to 8 years that you own
Exactly.
with no investors.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the goal. And we'll see if we can stay true to that. And I just don't think that, I mean, right now there's not a want or a need. You never know. Things do change in
Totally.
business and your positions change on things and whatnot over time. But as of right now, yeah, if we can keep this train rolling,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it feels great to not really, I mean, it's great having partners. There's nothing wrong with it, of course. But hey, if you can just do it yourself as a little family business, that's kind of what Gracie and I call it, then that's even better.
yeah, it's just that much easier.
Yeah, it is.
Like I love all of my investors. but
Right, right,
When we go into these projects, I've got 30 days to go raise $3 million
right.
to buy some real estate, and it's not stressful. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, no, believe me, I've been through it, and I haven't been on that kind of time frame of 30 days. I would freak out. I mean, I'm talking about when we're doing raises, that sometimes would last 6 to 8 months, and you know how it is too. Is you can get so far down the line, and then you can lose it at the end. And always try to tell, our partners within our restaurant group, or our upper management, our leadership team. I'm like, sometimes to get one deal, you got to put in 20 proposals, right?
Yeah.
Or 50 proposals to get one deal, most of them you aren't going to get. So go into a deal thinking
Right.
you're not going to get it.
There's so many parallels with that in real estate investing.
Exactly. So it's, it is a tricky world. Raising capital is something that takes a lot of talent and just a lot of networking,
Yeah.
I'm telling you that. I mean, obviously, but it's, how hard it is and how frustrating it can be and how time consuming it is. You got to be so well put together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to. We go over our offering memorandums like 17 times, and then I'll still tell the team, I'm like, go in there with a fine tooth comb,
Yeah. Break it.
and if you see, a period spaced off wrong,
Right.
or something's missing an apostrophe, or we redo the whole thing. We have to fix it.
Yeah.
And it can get frustrating, but if an investor sees that, all it takes is them to see one grammatical error
Absolutely.
in a paragraph to go, I don't know about these guys.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. It's just like, hiring folks. If I see something, I'm probably going to flag that, honestly.
You have to.
You're
Yeah.
putting everything out there to try to get something, and,
You're supposed to be here to represent me in my business. I've got
Yeah.
to make sure that you're going to uphold that. Chris is asking, what website should investors visit for my projects? Interested in being a limited partner. Love to hear that, Chris. If you're interested in being a limited partner with us, go to investwithhamilton.com. If you're listening on the podcast, that should be at the beginning and the end of every episode. But yeah, investwithhamilton.com. Sunshine is saying, I'm late, but I'm getting a lot to rent out spots to food truck owners. She's in Dallas, Texas. Is this still profitable here to your knowledge? Yeah, Sunshine. I mean, I think that's a great opportunity, right? I mean, if you've got a solid location that has foot traffic or high visibility, that's very easy for food truck operators to set up, I think that it would be very attractive to them. Now, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that, Chad, because I would imagine they can't pay very much.
Yeah, see, that's the tough part, right? Is everyone kind of talks about it's commiserate to like what you're selling on your food truck, right?
Right.
And that goes back to like, you only have so much ability to create revenue out of a food truck. You can only store so much food to be able to sell for money, right? So there's definitely some limitations. So I think, and a lot of the folks in the food truck business are in the food truck business because they don't want to pay rent.
Right.
Right. That's why they're like, I can, and they almost get like the little old sailor pirate. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out and work the streets,
This
and
is
not
exactly-
have.
they are pirates.
Yeah.
They're food pirates.
Hey, nothing wrong with the food truck people. We love you.
No, I think it's great.
But yeah, I mean, that's why they're kind of in a food truck, right? They don't want to pay rent. And so, yeah, you might be able to get a small amount from him, but it's not going to be a lot.
Yeah, Sunshine, we've looked at doing this several times on just vacant lots that we own after we bought them, took them down or whatever, because, why not? But we always decided that the headache of getting a lease put together or something like that, and then finding the tenants and then having to deal with them, it was just never really worth the amount of money that we were going to collect. Now, one thing that we are doing is we're looking at, we just took down some land, and as a gesture of good faith to a restaurant here in Nashville that unfortunately had to close because their building's getting torn down, we told them they could operate their food truck essentially for free on one of our properties until we develop it, but we're going to make them pay for the lease or the licensing agreement. That way it's no cost to us, no cost to them, but it's tough. I mean, I love the idea, and I know that food truck courts do well. But just trying to program, it's a lot of work.
Agreed. And, it's kind of like pop-ups, right? We don't charge friends and community people to do pop-ups at our restaurant,
Yeah.
We're closed on Sundays.
Come do it on a Sunday.
Yeah, come do it on Sunday. We're not going to charge you, We just want to make sure, you're someone that's trusted to us and, we have a relationship and whatnot because we're essentially giving you our space. But I'm not looking to get like 3% of sales or $500 for the night, because I know that the folks that are doing a pop-up are not going to be making that kind of revenue that can really generate something to pay. Plus, I just like the good community will aspect of it. You know what I mean? It's just
and it's just a cool new experience somewhere that people are used to going already that is totally different.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, if you don't think it's marketing for your own restaurant, then you're probably missing something too. Because just having people in your space, even if it's not yours, not your night cooking for everyone, it's not a bad thing either.
It's the same reason that YouTube creators or podcasters go on each other's shows. You're opening yourselves up to a totally new audience, and it's mutually beneficial for everybody.
Right.
I mean, how many people now know about SS Guy? I know you own SS Guy, but you guys did that. You had a pop-up for SS Guy on a weekend when y'all weren't open. So how many people now know about that concept that may not have otherwise known about it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why you do it. When we first came to Nashville and we were building out East Side Banh Mi, that's exactly why we did pop-ups around town and dropped off family meal to other restaurants and things like that. It wasn't about driving revenue at all.
Yeah.
Doing those pop-ups wasn't about, I mean, it helped a little bit, but again, you're not going to make it rich off of doing these pop-ups where you're bouncing around town and schlepping and doing all that stuff. Yeah, there's probably some people that actually do make a really good living off of it, or enough to, start saving up or pushing for the next step. But the reason we did that, and we popped up at East Nashville Farmers Market and Jackalope the Ranch.
Yeah.
Where else? We did one at Chopper. It was really just to get in front of people and feed people and get them to taste the food. It's more of a promo thing. We never thought of it as driving revenue.
Yeah.
It was more just like, hey, let's cook for people. Let's meet people. We're in a new town. And, I always recommend that.
Yeah. I mean, that you guys did such a phenomenal job of that, being the newcomers. I mean, you're like the most established group in Nashville now, which is funny to think about. But yeah, Sunshine, I mean, I think it could be a very viable business concept. If you have the connections to the food truck industry and you're willing to go out there and work it, because they do need a space. What I've seen that's been very successful on that front are the commissary kitchens that allow people to leave their trucks at overnight as well, because every food truck has to have a commissary kitchen and they have to park overnight and plug in. And so, not everybody has that at their house or whatever to be able to do that. So, I mean, that could be an option there if you build a commissary kitchen and then kind of create a food truck court right outside of it.
Yeah, good idea. That's a great idea.
Be interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to charge you for that.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
So, getting back onto this expanding rapidly concept, because obviously I've been asking you about this a lot here recently, because we're looking at growing the YAHH.
Yep.
We're doing a location on Dickerson Pike. We're working on one up in Madison. We've got another one that we're working on out of state, out in Charlotte, and we're trying to put together, figure out, okay, we've got lightning in a bottle, but why is it lightning in a bottle? And so talking to you about startup costs.
Right.
I mean, the whole reason that we decided to do this concept is because we wanted to provide an affordable, attainable restaurant opportunity for startups and for restaurant groups that wanted to expand and do multiple locations. So, looking at what we've done, what do you like about it from that front? I mean, why is it feasible for you to go do multiple locations so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, you can get into one of the micro units for maybe a tenth of what you would for a regular restaurant, In
terms of like upfront costs?
Yeah, exactly. For capital needed, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys are doing all the build out, doing all the architectural fees, right?
All the fun
kitchen
stuff.
package,
Yeah.
right? Kitchen package, including hood and walk-in, which are probably the biggest pieces of any kitchen package.
It's the most
right?
expensive.
All the
for sure.
finishes is basically just plug and play.
Yeah.
Right. For a new tenant. So, I think you could even do it for less than what we're doing it for. I think we're getting all new equipment, different things like that. But I think for someone that wants to even do it more on a budget, they easily can. I mean, they can find secondhand equipment. They can, do a little less promo. They can do a little less marketing, whatever it is, whatever fits their budget. They're able to get in for extremely cheap comparative to building out a fresh restaurant. And that's even building out a second generation space that actually has a hood and an existing walk-in and all the infrastructure of electrical, plumbing, all that. I mean, it's just a different game basically on what the capital need would be to get into a restaurant, into a brick and mortar.
Yeah, and I'm sure it depends too on what kind of food you're prepping, right?
It does.
If you're doing a whole bunch of fried foods, you're gonna have to spend money on a fryer. But if you're doing a deli, maybe you don't have to have any of that. And so
no,
you don't have to buy
exactly.
equipment.
You could. That's what I'm saying. You could do it really on the cheap based off of what your concept is.
So you said earlier you were spending on Asian Box, and that may not be translatable, but $500,000 to $750,000 just to build out a restaurant.
Right.
So you're saying you think that you can get away with $50,000 to $75,000 on these micro units?
I think you can easily do a really great restaurant in there for 50. I think even if you wanted to go down and use secondhand equipment and kind of go out and scrap that and find it and spend that time to go and get used things or follow restaurant estate sales, things like that, I think you could probably get in around 20.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a 10th to essentially almost a 20th of the cost of opening up a regular restaurant.
Yeah.
Which means you could go open up 10 restaurants for the cost of one, basically.
Yep.
What are you projecting in annual revenue compared to your your traditional brick and mortar. I mean, you don't have to give numbers if you don't want to, but in terms of what you guys are doing in volume, are you looking at doing 1/10 of the revenue just because it's 1/10 of the cost?
No, but I don't think you're going to do the again, this is totally based off of what the concept is, what the square footage of the regular, let's call the regular brick and mortar would be. So there's a lot of factors in there.
Totally.
For sure. But I wouldn't say 1/10. I think you could do more than that. I think we're going to do for example, I think at ESP, we're going to do, without giving full numbers on all the concepts,
Sure.
I think we can do 2/3 of the revenue we do at Eastside Banh Mi.
2/3.
Yeah. Which is pretty nuts.
That's amazing.
And let's just preface that with Eastside Banh Mi tears it up and turns and burns.
It does really, really well.
So yeah. So again, without getting into the specifics on numbers, but I'm projecting 2/3 of the revenue.
That's great. Okay, we're gonna have to sit down with Adam, and I'm gonna have to have him throw together a model for this,
right?
So that we could show people.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about doing that before. Is it would be really nice to be able to show that, and I think you could get that down on paper nicely.
So for 1/10 of the cost, you'll get 2/3 of the revenue.
Yep.
Do you think you'll ever go back to doing a traditional brick and mortar?
Yeah, I think again, kind of every concept has its own thing in a way. And one thing about us is that we've chosen not to scale a single concept anymore.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this before. So like Eastside Banh Mi, that will be the only Eastside Banh Mi.
Yeah.
There's never going to be another one.
Which I love.
That was one of the differences we did with Asian Box back in the day when we scaled that from 1 to 10. That really worked well for that. And for the folks that do that, that's fantastic. It's like the grilled cheeseries that have 3 or 4 or whatever. Right. That's awesome. That's a great way to do it. We just, after our experience doing that, and then with our kind of new lease on restaurant life, no pun intended,
right,
have decided not to do that because we have a lot of really cool concepts that we have in our pocket that we would like to show people. And I think you can use the same bones and the same pro formas and the same everything to create, you can be looking for the same size space. And this I'm going to come back to the micro units, right? Is that you can have the budgets that work for all of these almost same size spaces. So like Eastside Banh Mi is 1,200 square feet, right?
Yeah.
It's got 28 seats inside, right? No patio. I wish it had one, but that's what it is. So there's, in our pocket right now, we have 4 concepts that could fit into that space using those same budgets, same projections on food costs, labor costs, all that would be 4 completely different concepts that would work. And I think that's really fun.
That's so much fun.
And so I just think that they're a little more special that way. And again, that's not putting down the multi-unit or the same,
no.
same brand. It's just, I think it's a little more special when you have just one,
Well, and you've been through that before, right?
Right.
Like you've gone and raised capital and scaled to 10 units. And you've had that experience, and now and you're very successful with that. And now you're kind of at the point in your career. It's the passion projects.
It is.
We'll make. It's kind of like where I am. We'll make money doing anything.
Right.
But what am I going to love doing the most? What's going to make a difference? What's going to push the boundaries of what real estate is? And you're kind of doing the exact same thing. I mean, all the concepts that you're bringing to Nashville, they don't exist.
Right.
I mean, there are some pho concepts in town.
There is. Yeah.
There's less than a handful.
Exactly.
And Nashville's huge.
Yeah. Yep. I think,
and there's not one in East Nashville.
I know. There's definitely not. I think that overall there's a lot of white space in Nashville for Asian of all kinds.
Yeah.
So I want to say that we're partially going to focus on that in the future.
Yep.
Although that's not our entire repertoire. As you know, we have a lot of different backgrounds and areas and things that we can pull from and that we like to do and like we like to eat, going back to we like to eat.
Yeah, Chad invites me to like all of his tastings.
Right.
And they're good at everything. We'll just leave
Thank you.
We'll leave it there.
But yeah, so, and that's the one thing people told us before we got here is that Nashville needs more good Asian restaurants. And so we're trying to do that.
Dude.
Yeah.
You're telling me, man, grew up here and, we had like 3 sushi restaurants.
Don't forget the sushi and Thai restaurants.
That's right. We had 2 sushi and Thai.
I've never seen that before. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I never thought anything
not
of
a
it
thing.
because
Yeah.
that was like normal here.
They have nothing to do with each other. Those two,
yeah.
like geographically and like cuisine wise, it's pretty funny. Like, yeah. But hey, those people are hustling and grinding, so good for them.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, it worked.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
found a market because, I mean, it was successful in Nashville.
Totally.
It's funny to me in California. You're just
Yeah.
like, I don't know what that is. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Those numbers are still so like bizarre to me.
Yeah.
So, a tenth of the cost, 2/3 of the revenue, which is so cool for me to hear because, I don't know anything about restaurants, right? I mean, I haven't even spent my career being focused on restaurants.
Yeah.
We've done a few, we've represented groups, we've helped them do some restaurants, but I've never been involved in a build out. I've never invested in a restaurant. I've never gotten behind, I waited tables when I was 21.
And you like to eat a lot at restaurants.
And I like to really eat.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that side. But, when we set out to create this concept that would help the next generation of restaurateurs get up and going, we wanted it to be affordable, but we thought, hey, let's approach it from the real estate side, right? Like,
right.
I'm going to create a space that we can easily rent out, and it might be a little expensive on a price per square foot basis, but your all-in monthly rate's going to be much cheaper, and it's just cool to me to hear that it's working.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool, and it kind of it's very similar to what we're doing at YAHH Hospitality as well. One of our arms, if you will, is like an incubator program,
which is perfect for this.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So basically, what we're looking for kind of chef partners who are really passionate, dynamic, love what they do, love the business, want to be in the business. Maybe they don't have the wherewithal and or the capital to get a place open themselves. So they have a really great idea. They definitely know what they're doing in the business. But they just don't, they don't have that experience, like a lot of chefs don't have that experience.
Yeah.
They just don't. And, you get to that point where you hear a lot of really tough stories about, chefs taking their first kind of partnership deal and it just going south, and they're not doing their homework on things because their world is the kitchen.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of owners out there that hide P&Ls from you and don't kind of develop you that way when you're a chef.
And they get 5 or 10% of their concept that they're slaving over.
Right.
Everything for.
Exactly. So we're doing, I guess, a very non-traditional approach on it. And we're still building this out somewhat. But with SS Guy, we're doing that with Chris and his wife. And so just a quick story on that. Chris, we hired him on as a sous chef. And he has this great experience, great background, great pedigree. We've cooked it. We have some of the same pedigree. We share some of it, and has this fantastic concept, really cool idea. It would be perfect for Nashville. And so we talked to him and said, hey, why don't you come and join us at Eastside Banh Mi, help us get stabilized. This is when we're still like nuts busy,
right?
There 6 days a week, just grinding. And it wasn't really sustainable anymore for us to keep doing that. And wanted to bring some more people on to kind of, learn and build with us and stuff. And so that was part of it. And so Chris joined us and with the kind of promise or projection that we would help him develop his restaurant concept and help him find capital and help him find a place and do all that. And so excited to say that that's in the works right now.
Yeah.
We're working on that. And like you said, we've had one pop up, there'll be more coming up, but it's his and his wife's concept.
So cool.
I'm not even taking, like, Gracie and I and YAHH Hospitality are not even taking a piece of it in the end. That's like the kind of new style restaurant arrangement. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's more based on. It's more like community based. We want to give back. We want to help. Like I said, we have a very varied consultant background, and I miss that. Like, that's my sweet spot. That
it's
when
fun.
we talk a lot about stuff like that. I could talk restaurants all day long. I love it.
Yeah.
So while we're creating and operating our own businesses, we have the ability and we have the time and we have the desire to help others as well, and that's what we want to do. So hopefully this first one will be a great example. Of course, it's going to need some adjustments and different things, and we'll kind of learn as we go a little bit because, like I said, this is very non-traditional. The traditional restaurant investment is, like an 80-20, then a flip-flop, and we don't need to go into that, but that's the basic, usually how it works. But this one, we're going to do a little differently, and I think it's going to work really well, and it's going to make me feel really good, honestly.
Yeah.
And I still get to play restaurant. I still get to help someone, and we're only going to do concepts that we really believe in. So to kind of get this partnership in place, there's going to be a process. There's going to be an application process, and there's going to be a paid apprenticeship that you come and work with us, kind of like what Chris is doing right now, so they can get a better idea of really operating at a high level, and we can get a better idea of them as an operator before we really dive deep into it.
Well, and that's so smart for both parties.
It is.
Because if you're going to be in that position for them, they need to know, one, how you operate as a partner and that you're not going to be overbearing or try to control the concept.
Yep.
But two, they need to know that you're actually going to be there to help them, right?
Exactly.
You need to know that they know how to operate a restaurant.
Right.
And that they can come up with concepts and they can run a kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, so that it's just such a great way to learn that side of the business.
It really is, and I just wish more people kind of got a chance to learn that side of the business, because I did, and I feel very lucky for it. And it's almost like I started my career, I was like, you know, like a dreamy executive chef of just doing awesome food, and then I got to morph onto the second half into the business side and learn that. And I'm so happy I got to learn both, because now I can turn around and help folks, which is really important to me.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, one of the biggest tragedies in the restaurant industry is how many chefs out there will never get to release their concept to the world that could be the next Chipotle,
right?
Or could be the next East Side Banh Mi.
Yep.
Because opening up a restaurant it's so unbelievably expensive, and it's really tough. I mean, you think about, you know, you might be the most incredible chef in the world, but if you don't know how to run a business and you don't know how to raise capital and you don't know how to spend your time going out and doing that, it doesn't matter. You'll always be working for somebody else. I think that's such a great way to help them get into owning their own future.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that, because most people do get caught up in that. Like, oh, we're serving awesome food, but do you have a sustainable business? That's the biggest key. Like, can you continually create jobs and hire people? You know, like, can you create a sustainable program at your business where you're able to develop people, help people in their own lives, you know, give them great jobs that are meaningful, not just a simple hourly thing, you know, and be able to consistently do that. Well, a great business doesn't matter if you can, you know, put awesome food on a plate. If you can't keep your business open because you don't know all the aspects of it, then you're gonna close down, and you're gonna have to lay people off, and it's just a lot of sad things involved in that. So yeah, being the best well-rounded business person you can, but also being able to cook is so important, you know, and be able to create a great product, right, for people.
It's exactly it. I mean, it's an art and a science.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
100%. Yep.
Let's see. Yeah. Angel or Angel is saying it's hard businesses. Yes. Yeah. They really are. Rita's asking, what's your favorite part of the business?
Hey, Rita, what's up? Favorite part of the business is obviously, it's just serving people in hospitality.
Yeah.
So one of my first jobs in San Francisco was at a very well-known, one of the best restaurants at the time. And I got started as a food runner. Basically, I just brought out food to the tables and put them down. Well, it was that moment where I really understood that I wanted to do this forever, because I was putting down these absolutely beautiful plates in front of people, and people were just like
floored.
They were just like, this is beautiful, you know, and it wasn't even like super foo-foo fancy small plates too. It was like a busy restaurant that did 400 covers a night.
Wow.
That, you know, was like the coolest people in San Francisco at the time, and the food was awesome, but it was also still approachable, and we're using great ingredients. And like I said, like, these portions were big, but they were just so beautiful, and so everything was so well thought out. And so being able to serve someone, and then you can just see them light up instantly, or you're approaching the table and you see how good this foretop is having with each other out dining. Like, that's why we dine, right? Like, you know, that's why we go out with friends. It's just sitting around a table and sharing a meal and breaking bread and all that. So I think that's what personally still kind of pushes me every day. You know, people still see me at the restaurant. I go out and, you know, I wrap sandwiches for Gracie. That's kind of the joke, you know? And I'm able to say hello and goodbye to everyone, and I go out and talk to people. We have such great regulars and such a great community there. So I still really kind of, that drives me every day.
Makes a big difference, man.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the second time I walked into Peninsula, Craig knew my drink order from last time.
Nice, yeah.
And it's those hospitality touches that whenever you go into a restaurant, you know, I mean, I'm sure at all these chains, unless you're going really every day and they happen to keep the same employees, you're probably not going to be getting that kind of treatment.
Right.
And so I think that, when hospitality groups like You Are Here has that mentality, that's how you have something that's exceptional.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've sat in your restaurant, I've watched you. You greet everybody that comes in.
Yeah.
And I think that makes such a big difference, man.
Yeah, it's touch points, and again, that's kind of going back to the, fine casual versus fast casual, right? Because when's the last time you went into a Chipotle, sat down and started eating your food and someone came over and said like, hey, how's everything tasting,
Never. They don't care.
So it's, it's like adding those little almost fine dining elements to make your experience even great. And so think about that, $10, $12 that you're spending and you're getting that. Yeah. It's like you're creating memories and people remember things like that. And I think that's what's important is creating those touch points for people. And you can do it on all kinds of businesses is the thing. If you're dedicated to it, we tell the team there, it's really kind of
one extra step.
Yeah. It's really kind of simple. It's like cook really great food consistently, be really nice to people. We just solved a restaurant. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the rest falls into place, and I know it's not that easy, but if you just do the pleases and thank yous and hellos and goodbyes, the start there. Yeah. That's just the little things, Yeah,
I love that. Well, Chad, if anybody wants to learn more about You Are Here Hospitality or they want to get into your mentorship program, how do they get a hold of you?
Like I said, we're still kind of in the works right now. We're building everything out. Website's going to launch very, very soon, like any week now. Same with our Instagram handle. That is live and active, so You Are Here Hospitality. And then you can follow us on all the other social channels like Eastside Bomb Me, at Eastside Bomb Me for Instagram, at Eastside Pho for Eastside Pho. And then just follow along there and you'll start seeing everything because we kind of all, as any kind of restaurant group does, start, mixing it in on all the posts and stuff and seeing it. So, yeah, that's kind of the best way to do it right now and just come in and say hello at the restaurants.
Yeah, go grab a sandwich at Eastside Bomb Me. Chad, thank you for coming in today, man. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Tyler.
it. This was a great conversation. If you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to leave us a review. That way we can get in front of more people that are interested in learning more about commercial real estate and real estate investing. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see y'all next week. Thank you for listening to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by Hamilton, your resource for passive real estate investment opportunities. Visit www.investwithhamilton.com to start building your passive real estate portfolio today.